two, three. Do. All right, it's live from outside the survival pod. This is Freedom Phil, and hey, here's the topic. Do ugly people have more successful marriages? And there's a theory to this, there's a method to this madness. But it's just something I want to talk about real quick, because I got thinking it was funny what I heard earlier. All right, let's get into it. And hey, turn up the video speed. Why do I say that? Because watch videos faster. Why wouldn't you? I just want people to know, before I even get into this, I may not read the chat. I may not give a shit. You may not be important enough to acknowledge. You better have something really delicious to say. Otherwise, I don't give a damn. So the topic, are ugly people more successful in marriage? I got to thinking about this as I was listening to a video earlier where they were talking about, the old adage was 50-50 divorce rates. When really some people say, if they're being honest, probably more like 60 to 70 at this point. And I got to thinking about the people that I knew growing up, or I said not just growing up, but as a young adult, 20-something, maybe in my early 30s, that basically were married, and probably still married. And most of them are either ugly or broke. Now, a lot of broke people will get divorced, no doubt about that. But I remember some cases where people did everything right. I got a buddy who, he didn't want to go and work that job at the mill. He didn't want to, show up before the sun rose and leave after the sun set. He once told me, if I don't go outside during the day, during the winter, I don't see the sun unless it's the weekend. And if we're working 6 days a week, I get to see the sun once a week. Yeah. And he worked to feed his family. And I knew his wife was going to cheat on him. I knew his wife was going to divorce him from the day I met her, because she just had kind of that I can do better, crafty attitude. She wasn't even a bad person. She was pretty kick-ass. But someone who's really smart will eventually, and you see this with the situations where women go to college and then lose a lot of respect for their husbands, even if their husbands are the ones, doing a trades job paying for their college. You could just pick that order up from her. And sooner or later, she did end up divorcing him. And she says, well, I love him. I just can't live with him. Translation, she wants new dick. And she can get divorced, take the house, take the money, and take child support. So there's really nothing in her case she loses. But there's this thing in just society in general called the 7-year itch. They used to clown on men for saying, what is this, a midlife crisis? Is that why you bought the car? I'd argue the midlife crisis is the average guy realizing, hey, man, I've been doing all this shit. I should have something for me. Like a boat or a car or something to, other than just my wife and kids. I mean, it's one thing to love your wife and kids, but for God's sake, something for yourself. No, women have the 7-year itch, which is like, if they get married when they're young, like 18 to 21, 5 to 7 years later, they're likely to get divorced. And the reason is that a lot of them will basically look at the situation, and every so many years, a woman's body just starts losing ability to look beautiful and young. Not all women, some women dragging on into their 50s. But most women, once they hit 28 to 32, it shows. So in the back of their mind, there's that part of their breeding brain that's going, hey, you got to land a better guy. You got to land a better guy. Better genetics. Basically like monkeys evaluating to get the best, fittest male, just like any damn species. I don't totally blame the female mind for doing it. I just blame society for telling us to marry the bitches. And you get to thinking about it for a second. And my buddy's wife was having that thing go on in her head. Now, ironically, though, I've known people that were poor, and they had all the same, genetic thing going on in their brain, except for the difference was some of those chicks were kind of, I'm going to be honest, they were ugly. And ugly chicks, just like ugly dudes just got to work really hard. Ugly chicks, maybe like, I hate to say it, it's not even like the Better Man song. What was that, Pearl Jam or something like that? But really, they're going to get out there, and unless you lose, you can lose all the weight you want, honey. But if you still got butter face and your tits are kind of saggy and you're really just you were mid even in your prime. I wonder how often that those chicks manage to keep it together because they realize, I'm not going to do better than this guy. And when you take away the situation where women get the kids, women get everything, basically type of divorce, like it's a 50-50. Like, you want to leave this guy, okay, you can leave him, but you're not going to take everything. In fact, you're going to have to pay your half of child support. And you watch how quickly a lot of women that are of the lower strata are just like, well, I guess I'll stick with him until I can figure out some way to poison him. Just being honest. Or until, he drops dead from all the bad eating habits. And I get to thinking about the whole like Dan and Roseanne situation. If both of those people were like super attractive, do you think the TV show would have worked? And the answer is fucking no. I mean, I'm just saying, average people have average options. And if your options are shittier than the situation, I bet you would stay married. And I look back at some of the people I knew, like the dude that was living in Section 8 with his wife. And his wife had an open relationship, and they both had it. For years, it was just her. The guys literally lived in the apartment. Like, these fucking derelict dudes. And I guess these guys were, like, slow in the brain. So they must have had some fucking maximum dongle action. And, man, you were banging Tabby. It's not that she's hideous. It's just, bitch, you're fat. And I get to thinking about it, and I'm like, I bet Ogre knew he didn't have any better options. If he broke up with this old lady, he'd have to go out and get his whole ass apartment. He'd have to pay real bills. He couldn't just work some shit job at, a thrift store where he's only working part-time or a little better. He'd have to get a real ass job. She would just go on and keep on getting Section 8. So I have to wonder to some degree if their open relationship was a byproduct of just the fact that he knew there was nothing better coming. And just like, ugly chicks that just make that evaluation going, well, I would do this, but there's not really anybody knocking on my door. In the same way, ugly dudes be all like, well, she's got a pussy and I'm not doing any better. Because attractive people can literally have people and throw them away. Look at the numbers, man. Like, the women are all chasing after the same 5, 15, 20% of guys. That other 80% has to actually prove themselves to be worthy, like certain height, certain this. And you know what's funny with women on that one is they'll get a 6-foot guy and think, the guy, he's got the jaw, he's got all the looks, he's got everything. And they're like, well, he's got the genetics. I could change him. Every fucking woman thinks they're going to change, Chad Thundercock. I'm going to tell you ladies right now, Chad's only going to do what the fuck he wants to do. I don't care, Chad Tyrone, T-Rash, whoever you want to claim. They will only do what they want to do. And and this is the sad part of even for some of the people that are highly successful. Guys on the upper 5 to 20%, they are like chicks. No, they're masculine. Don't get me wrong. But the fact that they don't have to fight or work for all that pussy, the fact that all your girlfriends are bringing it to them, just like women, they can throw something away that's good to them and be like, whatever. They might look back and say, well, that chick was actually a pretty good chick. Later in their 40s or 50s. Yeah, she was pretty all right. But, at the time, that guy could throw it away, just like a lot of women. Now, imagine you just didn't have that option. You would recognize real quick, hey, it might not get better than this. Better not fuck up. Just like if you lived in a broke-ass town and you got not a good job, but it's a pretty okay job. And it doesn't really grind your head too much. You do your job, you make your money. It's not the greatest money, but you look out in the job market, you're like, there better shit out here. So to some degree, I have to wonder, in the same way with the job market, if ugly people are more likely to stay together, just knowing there's no better options. Just throwing that out there. Anyhow, Freedom Phil, like, subscribe, take it easy, and yeah, peace.